My phone buzzed during a safety meeting. Unknown number. One message. Your wife left her underwear at my place last night. I forwarded it to her entire family before I could stop myself. The construction trailer went silent around me as I stared at the screen, watching that little delivered notification mock me from below the message. 63 people in the Brooks family group chat. 63 people who just received a photo of black lace panties on some stranger's nightstand. Brooks, you paying attention? Tony's voice cut through my shock. Our safety coordinator stood at the front of the trailer, hard hat under his arm, looking annoyed that I wasn't hanging on every word about fall protection protocols. Yeah, sure, I managed, shoving my phone into my pocket as it started buzzing like an angry wasp. Fall protection, got it. But I didn't have anything. My hands were shaking, and my mind was racing through the implications of what just happened. Elin, my wife of 8 years, the woman who complained when I left coffee rings on the counter, the woman who organized our spice rack alphabetically and color-coded our shared calendar, the woman whose underwear was apparently decorating some other man's bedroom. My phone kept buzzing, text after text flooding in from cousins, aunts, uncles, my mother-in-law. The family chat that Elin had insisted we all join for better communication was now the epicenter of the most humiliating moment of my life. Meeting's over, Tony announced. Remember, safety first out there. We've got inspectors coming next week. The other guys filed out, their conversations about weekend plans and overtime hours fading as they headed back to their respective job sites. I stayed in my seat, finally pulling my phone back out to survey the damage. Mom, Elin's mother. What is this? Cousin Jake. Dude, wrong chat maybe? Aunt Patricia. This is inappropriate for a family group. Sister-in-law Amy. Kellen, are you okay? The messages kept coming, but I couldn't focus on them because my phone was ringing. Elin's name flashed on the screen, along with her photo from our anniversary dinner last year. She looked beautiful in that picture, smiling at the camera while holding a glass of wine. The woman I thought I knew. Hello, I answered, my voice steadier than I expected. What the hell did you just do? Her voice was sharp, panicked. Why did you send that to my family? I didn't mean to, I said, which was true. Got a text from someone claiming you left your underwear at their place. Thought it was spam or a wrong number. Went to forward it to you, hit the wrong chat. Silence on the other end. Long enough that I started to wonder if the call had dropped. Elin? I'm here. Her voice was different now, smaller. Kellen, we need to talk. Yeah, we do. I stood up, grabbing my hard hat and tool belt. I'll be home in 20 minutes. No, don't come home yet. I need some time to think. Time to think about what? About whose bedroom your underwear is in? Another long pause. It's not what you think. Then explain it to me. Not over the phone. Give me a few hours, okay? We'll talk tonight. She hung up before I could respond. I stared at my phone, watching more messages pile up in the family chat. My own family members were starting to chime in now, having been tagged by Elin's relatives who wanted answers. Dad. Son, call me when you get this. My brother Mike. What's going on? Mom's freaking out. I turned off my phone and walked out to my truck. The construction site buzzed with activity around me, but everything felt distant, like I was watching it through thick glass. Guys operating heavy machinery, others framing walls, the constant noise of progress and productivity. My normal world, suddenly feeling foreign. 20 minutes later, I pulled into our driveway. The house looked the same as always, white colonial with blue shutters, the flower beds Elin had planted last spring still blooming despite the October chill. But something was different. Her car wasn't there. I used my key to get in, calling her name even though I knew she wouldn't answer. The house felt empty in a way that went beyond just being alone. I walked through the living room, noting that her laptop wasn't on the coffee table where she usually left it. Her reading glasses weren't on the end table. In our bedroom, I opened her closet, half empty. Drawers in her dresser pulled out, clothes missing. She hadn't just left for a few hours to think. She'd packed. My phone buzzed again. I'd turned it back on without thinking, and now I had 47 unread messages. But this time, it wasn't the family chat. It was a new text from the unknown number. Sorry about the confusion earlier. Thought you should know what your wife's been up to. Check her cloud backup if you want the whole story. Password is your anniversary date. I sat down hard on our bed, staring at the message. Someone was playing games, but the question was who and why. And how did they know Elin's cloud password? I grabbed my laptop from the nightstand and opened her cloud account. The anniversary date worked, October 15th, 2016. 8 years ago, when we promised to love and honor each other for better or worse. The backup loaded, showing her phone's contents from the last sync. Messages, photos, contacts, everything. I scrolled through her recent texts, looking for anything unusual. That's when I found them. Hundreds of messages with someone listed as gym trainer in her contacts. The conversation thread went back 14 months. My hands trembled as I opened the oldest message. Gym trainer. Great session today. Same time tomorrow? Elin. Can't wait. Kellen works late on Thursdays. Gym trainer. Perfect. We'll have plenty of time. I scrolled forward, watching their relationship develop through text messages. Flirting turned into planning. Planning turned into coordination. Meeting times, locations, elaborate lies about where she was going and what she was doing. Gym trainer. Got the spare key you made. This is so much easier than hotels. Elin. I know. Just be careful when you come over. Mrs. Grafton next door is nosy. Spare key. She'd given him a key to our house. I scrolled faster, looking for recent messages, trying to understand the scope of what I was discovering. Elin. Kellen's getting suspicious. He asked why I joined a gym but never seemed to lose weight. Gym trainer. Maybe it's time to tell him. Elin. Not yet. I need to figure out the financial stuff first. He doesn't know about the apartment. Apartment. What apartment? I kept reading, my chest tightening with each message. They had an apartment together. She'd been living a double life, splitting time between our house and some other place with this gym trainer, whose real name appeared to be Corbin Findler. The most recent messages were from this morning, before I'd received that first text. Corbin. You left your underwear here again. The black ones. Elin. I'll get them tonight. Kellen's working late. Corbin. Or I could take a picture and send them to him. Let him know what his wife's been up to. Elin. Don't you dare. We talked about this. When I'm ready. Corbin. I'm tired of hiding, Elin. Either you tell him, or I will. The conversation ended there. 2 hours later, I'd received that photo and message. Corbin had followed through on his threat, but he'd sent it to me instead of Elin. Maybe he'd wanted to see what would happen. Maybe he was just tired of being a secret. Either way, my marriage was over. I closed the laptop and looked around our bedroom. 8 years of shared space, shared life, shared everything. The book she was reading on her nightstand, the framed photo of us from our honeymoon in Maine, her jewelry box with the necklace I'd given her for her last birthday. All of it was a lie. My phone rang again. This time, it was my brother Mike. Kellen, what the hell is going on? Mom got some crazy messages from Elin's family. Elin's having an affair, I said, surprised by how calm I sounded. Has been for over a year. I just found out. Jesus. Are you okay? Where are you? Home. She's gone. Packed her stuff and left. I'm coming over. You don't have to. I'm coming over, he repeated. Don't do anything stupid until I get there. He hung up, and I realized I was still holding Elin's cloud backup in my hands. Evidence of 14 months of lies, planning, and betrayal, but also evidence of something else. Something that made my stomach turn. I opened the laptop again and searched through her messages for financial information. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. Bank transfers, dozens of them, going back 18 months. Money moving from our joint savings account to an account I didn't recognize. Small amounts at first, 200 here, 500 there, then larger transfers, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 at once. I grabbed our banking information from the file cabinet and logged into our accounts online. Our savings account, which should have had nearly $100,000, showed a balance of $6,000, $94,000. Gone. The transfers were labeled with descriptions like home improvement, medical expenses, and family emergency loan. But I knew now where the money had really gone: to fund her second life with Corbin. I was still staring at the bank statements when Mike arrived. He let himself in with his spare key, calling my name as he walked through the house. "In here," I called back. He appeared in the bedroom doorway, took one look at my face, and sat down in the chair by the window. "How bad is it?" I turned the laptop around so he could see the bank account. His expression shifted from concern to anger. "She took $94,000? Looks like it, and there's more." I showed him the text messages, the photos, the evidence of the apartment. 14 months, Mike. 14 months of planning and lying and stealing. He was quiet for a long time, reading through everything. Finally, he looked up at me. "What are you going to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? What was I going to do? Roll over and let her take half of everything in a divorce? Pretend this was just a marriage that didn't work out? Let her paint me as the bad guy to our friends and family? "I don't know yet," I said, "but I'm not going to make it easy for her." Mike nodded. "Good. She doesn't deserve easy." My phone buzzed with another text. This time it was from Elin. "Can we meet somewhere to talk? I know you're angry, but there's more to this story." I showed Mike the message. He shook his head. "Don't meet her anywhere alone. Whatever you do, don't give her the chance to control the narrative." "What do you mean?" "I mean, she's had 14 months to plan this. She's going to have a story ready, probably one that makes you the bad guy. Don't let her get the first word in with your family, your friends, anyone who matters." He was right. Elin was smart, organized, and she'd been planning this for over a year. She would have thought through every angle, including how to minimize the damage to herself. But she'd made one mistake. She'd underestimated me. I picked up my phone and started typing a response to her text. "No. If you want to talk, we do it through lawyers. You've got 24 hours to return the money you stole, or I file charges for theft and fraud." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Her response came back immediately. "Kellen, please, it's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think. 24 hours. I turned off my phone and looked at Mike. "I need a lawyer. I know someone. Driscoll and Associates downtown. She handled my buddy's divorce last year. Took his ex-wife apart piece by piece. Can you call her?" Already dialing. As Mike made the call, I walked over to the window and looked out at our neighborhood. Normal houses with normal families living normal lives. Kids playing in yards, people walking dogs, the everyday rhythm of suburban life. But nothing about my life was normal anymore. My wife had been living a lie for over a year, stealing our money and planning her exit strategy while I went to work every day, thinking we were building a future together. The humiliation burned in my chest, but underneath it was something else, something colder and more focused. Elin wanted a war. She was about to get one. Mike's lawyer friend, Janet Driscoll, agreed to see me first thing Monday morning. That gave me the weekend to dig deeper into Elin's secret life, and what I found made my stomach turn. Saturday morning, I drove to the address I'd found in her messages. The Meridian Towers, a luxury high-rise downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows, and a doorman who looked like he pressed his uniform with military precision. I parked across the street and waited. At 10:30, Ellen's Honda pulled into the parking garage. 20 minutes later, she emerged with Corbin. He was exactly what I'd expected: tall, muscular, the kind of guy who probably flexed in every mirror he passed. They walked hand in hand toward the coffee shop on the corner, looking like any normal couple out for a Saturday morning, except she was still wearing her wedding ring. I followed them at a distance, staying far enough back to avoid being seen, but close enough to watch their interaction. They were comfortable together, familiar. This wasn't a new relationship or a moment of weakness. This was a life they'd built together while I was at work, believing my marriage was solid. At the coffee shop, I sat 3 tables away and listened to them plan their day, shopping for furniture, lunch at some restaurant I'd never heard of, a movie that evening, the casual intimacy of people who shared a life. "I need to go back to the house tomorrow," Elin said, stirring sugar into her latte. "Get more of my stuff." "Why don't you just tell him you want a divorce?" Corbin asked. "This sneaking around is getting old." "It's complicated. There are financial things I need to sort out first." Financial things. Like the $94,000 she'd stolen. What kind of financial things? Elin glanced around the coffee shop, and for a moment I thought she might have spotted me. But her eyes passed over my table without recognition. Joint accounts, the house, retirement funds. I need to make sure I get what I deserve. What she deserved. After stealing nearly $100,000 and lying for over a year, she was worried about getting what she deserved. I left the coffee shop and drove home, my mind racing with possibilities. Elin was planning to take me to the cleaners in a divorce, but she'd made a crucial mistake. She documented everything in her text messages, every lie, every theft, every plan. Back home, I spent the rest of Saturday printing out bank statements, text message screenshots, and any other evidence I could find. By Sunday evening, I had a folder 3 inches thick. Monday morning, I sat in Janet Driscoll's office, watching her review my evidence. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and the kind of focused intensity that made me understand why Mike's friend had recommended her. "This is impressive work," she said, closing the folder. "Most people come in here with suspicions and hurt feelings. You've brought me a federal case." "Federal?" "Bank fraud, wire fraud, potentially mail fraud if she used the postal service for any of this. The forged signatures alone could put her away for 5 years. She opened the folder again and pulled out the bank statements. "These transfers, the amounts, the frequency, this is systematic theft. She didn't just cheat on you, Mr. Brooks. She robbed you." "So what are my options?" "Lots of them. We can file criminal charges, pursue civil recovery, or use this as leverage in divorce proceedings. The question is, what do you want?" What did I want? I'd been asking myself that question all weekend. "I want her to face consequences," I said finally. "Real consequences, not just a slap on the wrist and half the assets." Janet nodded. "Then we start with freezing the accounts, all of them. Joint accounts, her individual accounts, credit cards, everything. Make it impossible for her to access any more money while we sort this out." "Can you do that?" "With this evidence? Absolutely. I'll have the paperwork filed by this afternoon." She walked me through the process, explaining how we'd build the case, what to expect from Elin's response, and how to protect myself legally. By the time I left her office, I felt like I had a plan for the first time since Friday. But I wasn't done investigating. Tuesday evening, I drove to Fitness World, the gym where Corbin worked. The place was busy with the after-work crowd, people running on treadmills and lifting weights while music pounded from speakers in the ceiling. I found Corbin at the front desk, signing someone up for a membership. He was even bigger in person, the kind of guy who probably spent 3 hours a day in the gym and took protein supplements with every meal. I waited until his customer left, then approached the desk. "Excuse me, are you Corbin?" He looked up, and I saw the exact moment he recognized me. His expression shifted from professional friendliness to something between guilt and defiance. "You're Kellen." "That's right. We need to talk." He glanced around the gym, probably checking to see if anyone was listening. "Look, man, I'm sorry about the way you found out. That wasn't how I wanted it to happen." "But you did want it to happen. Elin and we're in love. She was going to tell you eventually." Love. He called it love while they were stealing my money and planning my humiliation. How long have you known about the money? I asked. What money? The $94,000 she stole from our accounts to pay for your apartment. His face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. The Meridian Towers, apartment 12B, rent paid from transfers out of my savings account. You're living in a place I'm paying for, Corbin. That's not... She said she had her own money, inheritance from her grandmother. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. There was no inheritance. She forged my signature on loan documents and drained our savings. You've been an accessory to bank fraud for 14 months. The color drained from his face completely now. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Doesn't matter what you knew. Matters what you can prove. I leaned closer to the desk. Here's what's going to happen, Corbin. You're going to stay away from my wife, you're going to move out of that apartment, and you're going to cooperate with my lawyer when she calls you. Or what? Or I press charges against both of you, and you spend the next 5 years in federal prison learning what real fitness training looks like. I left him standing behind the desk, staring after me with his mouth open. It felt good to see the fear in his eyes, to know that their perfect little secret world was crumbling around them. Wednesday morning, Janet called to tell me the account freezes had gone through. Elin's credit cards were declined, her access to our joint accounts was blocked, and the apartment rent would bounce when it came due at the end of the week. She's going to call you, Janet warned. Probably today. Don't answer. Let everything go through me. She was right. Elin called 6 times that afternoon, each call going to voicemail. The messages started angry and grew increasingly desperate. Kellen, what did you do? My cards aren't working. This is ridiculous. We need to talk like adults. You can't just freeze everything. I have bills to pay. Please call me back. We can work this out. I didn't call her back. Instead, I drove to our neighborhood bar, Murphy's, where I knew I'd find some answers to questions I'd been afraid to ask. Murphy's was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business. Darla, the owner, had been serving drinks to the same crowd for 15 years. If anyone knew about Elin's secret life, it would be her. I found Darla behind the bar, polishing glasses while the evening news played on the TV above her head. Kellen Brooks, she said when she saw me. Haven't seen you in here for a while. Where's that pretty wife of yours? That's actually what I wanted to ask you about. She set down the glass she was polishing and gave me her full attention. What do you mean? How long have people been talking about Elin and her trainer? Darla's expression shifted, and I knew I had my answer before she said a word. Oh, honey, you found out. How long, Darla? She sighed and poured me a whiskey without asking what I wanted. 6 months, maybe longer. People started noticing when she'd come in here with him, acting all cozy. Then Mrs. Grafton from your street started talking about seeing his car in your driveway during the day. Mrs. Grafton, our 70-year-old neighbor who spent most of her day looking out her front window. If anyone had a timeline of Elin's affair, it would be her. Everyone knew? Not everyone, but enough people. I'm sorry, Kellen. I thought about saying something, but it wasn't really my place. I drank the whiskey in one swallow and put a 20 on the bar. Thanks for being honest. What are you going to do? I'm going to make sure the truth comes out. Thursday morning, I knocked on Mrs. Grafton's door. She answered wearing a floral housecoat and holding a cup of tea, looking exactly like what central casting would order for nosy neighbor. Kellen, dear, how are you holding up? You know? About Elin? Oh, honey, I've been watching that situation develop for months. I kept hoping you'd figure it out on your own. She invited me in and made me coffee while telling me everything she'd observed. Corbin's car in our driveway every Thursday when I worked late. Elin leaving with suitcases on weekends when I was supposedly at work conferences. The two of them together in our backyard acting like they owned the place. I have photos, she said, pulling out her phone. I started taking them when I realized what was happening. Thought you might need them someday. She showed me dozens of photos taken from her front window. Corbin arriving at our house, Elin kissing him goodbye on our front porch, the two of them loading furniture into a rental truck. When was this one taken? I asked, pointing to the furniture photo. 3 weeks ago. They took your dining room table, the one your grandmother left you. My grandmother's table, the one Elin had claimed was too formal for our dining room and suggested we put in storage. Can you send me these photos? Already did, dear. Sent them to your email this morning. Figured you'd be by to ask about them sooner or later. By Thursday evening, I had a complete picture of Elin's deception, the affair, the theft, the systematic removal of our belongings to furnish her secret apartment. She'd been planning her exit for over a year, taking everything she could while leaving me with the bills and the debt. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd documented everything, and she'd underestimated my ability to fight back. Friday morning, Janet called with an update. The apartment lease is in both their names, she said. Elin signed as guarantor, but Corbin is the primary tenant. The rent bounced yesterday, and the property management company is already starting eviction proceedings. What about criminal charges? I've been in touch with the district attorney's office. They're interested, especially in the forged loan documents. We should have a decision by next week. And Corbin? Scared. His lawyer called yesterday wanting to discuss cooperation. I think he's ready to throw Elin under the bus to save himself. That afternoon, my phone rang. It was Elin, calling from a number I didn't recognize. Kellen, please, we need to talk. Talk to my lawyer. This is insane. You've frozen everything. I can't even buy groceries. You should have thought about that before you stole $94,000. I didn't steal anything. That money was ours. The money was ours. What you did with it wasn't. There was a long pause. When she spoke again, her voice was different, colder. You're going to regret this, Kellen. I know things about you that could ruin your life. Like what? Like the tax returns you fudged 3 years ago. Like the cash jobs you didn't report. Like the time you hit that mailbox and drove away without leaving a note. I almost laughed. That's your big threat? Some minor tax issues and a mailbox I replaced anonymously the next day? There's more. I'm sure there is. But here's the thing, Elin. I've got bank fraud, wire fraud, theft, and adultery. You've got me potentially owing the IRS a few $100s in back taxes. I like my odds. I hung up and immediately called Janet to tell her about the threats. Document everything, she said. Every call, every message, every threat. She's desperate now, which makes her dangerous, but it also makes her sloppy. That evening, I sat in my living room, looking at the empty spaces where furniture used to be. The dining room table, the antique bookshelf, the coffee table I'd built myself, all gone, moved to furnish Elin's secret life with Corbin. But I wasn't angry anymore. Anger was too hot, too unfocused. What I felt now was colder, more purposeful. Elin had spent 14 months planning my destruction. Now it was my turn to plan hers. Monday morning brought the first real victory. Janet called at 8 a.m. with news that made me smile for the first time in a week. The district attorney is filing charges, she said. Bank fraud, wire fraud, and forgery. The grand jury meets Thursday. What does that mean for the divorce? It means we hold all the cards now. She can't claim half the assets when she's facing federal charges for stealing them. But the best news was still coming. Corbin's lawyer called again. He wants to make a deal. Full cooperation in exchange for immunity. He's going to testify against her? More than that. He's going to provide evidence. Apparently, Elin recorded some of their conversations about the money. She wanted proof that he didn't know where it came from, in case she needed to throw him under the bus later. The irony was perfect. Elin's plan to protect herself had created evidence of her own guilt. Tuesday afternoon, I was at the construction site when Tony approached me with a concerned expression. Brooks, you got a visitor, says she's your wife. I looked toward the trailer and saw Elin standing by the entrance, wearing the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. She looked smaller than I remembered, fragile in a way that might have tugged at my heartstrings a week ago. Now it just looked like another manipulation. "Tell her I'm busy." "Already did. She says she'll wait." I finished checking the electrical work on the third floor, taking my time, letting her stand in the October cold. When I finally walked over to the trailer, she was shivering despite her coat. "Hello, Kellen." "Elin, you're trespassing on a construction site. That's dangerous without proper safety equipment. We need to talk. I told you, talk to my lawyer. Please, just 5 minutes. There are things you don't understand." Against my better judgment, I walked with her to the parking area, away from the other workers, but still in view of the site. Whatever she had to say, I wanted witnesses nearby. "I made mistakes," she began. "I know that, but the money situation isn't what you think." "Enlighten me." "I was protecting us. The business you've been talking about starting, the construction company. I was setting aside money so we could make it happen." I stared at her, amazed by the audacity of the lie. "You were setting aside money by stealing it and spending it on an apartment with your boyfriend." "Corbin and I, that's over. It was a mistake, a midlife crisis or something. But the money, that was always meant to be for us." "Show me the account." "What?" "If you were setting money aside for our business, show me the account. Show me the business plan. Show me anything that proves this isn't just another lie." She looked away, and I knew she had nothing. I threw away the statements. I wanted it to be a surprise. Right. Just like the apartment was a surprise, just like Corbin was a surprise, just like the forged loan documents were a surprise. I never forged anything. I pulled out my phone and showed her a photo of the loan application, with her version of my signature clearly visible next to my real signature from our marriage license. "Want to explain this?" Her composure cracked for the first time. "I can explain everything if you'll just listen." "I'm done listening, Elin. I'm done believing your lies. I'm done pretending this marriage means anything, and I'm done letting you steal from me. You can't just cut me off financially. I'm your wife. You stopped being my wife the first time you gave another man a key to our house." I started walking back toward the construction site, but she grabbed my arm. "Kellen, wait. If you don't drop the charges, I'll tell everyone about your drinking problem." I turned back to face her. "What drinking problem?" "The one you're going to develop when I start telling people how you've been coming home intoxicated, how you've been violent, how I've been afraid for my safety." The threat hung in the air between us, and I realized this was what she'd been planning all along. The exit strategy wasn't just about the money. It was about destroying my reputation so thoroughly that no one would question her version of events. "That's your plan? Frame me as an abusive alcoholic?" "I don't want to, but you're not giving me a choice." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "Say that again." "What?" "Your threat to lie about me being violent and having a drinking problem. Say it again for the record." She realized her mistake immediately. "Turn that off." "No. You want to threaten me? Let's make sure there's evidence of it." She lunged for my phone, but I was faster, holding it out of reach while continuing to record. Elin Brooks, threatening to make false accusations against her husband in order to avoid prosecution for bank fraud. Today's date is October 22nd, 2024. Location is the Riverside construction site on Maple Street. "You can't use that in court." "Actually, I can. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state for recordings. This is perfectly legal." She stared at me with something I'd never seen before in her eyes. Pure hatred. "You think you're so smart," she said, "but I know things about you that could ruin everything you've built." "Like what?" "Like the real reason you left your last job." That stopped me cold. I had left my previous construction company after a disagreement with the owner about safety protocols, but Elin was implying something else entirely. "What are you talking about?" "I know about the accident, Kellen. The one you never reported. The one where someone got hurt because of your negligence. She was fishing, trying to find something that would stick. But the fact that she was willing to make up stories about workplace accidents told me everything I needed to know about how far she was willing to go. There was no accident, Elin, but thanks for showing me exactly who you really are. I walked away, leaving her standing in the parking lot. Behind me, I could hear her calling my name, but I didn't turn around. That evening, I met with Janet to discuss the recording and Elin's threats. "This is gold," Janet said after listening to the audio. "She's threatening to make false accusations to avoid prosecution. The prosecutor is going to love this." "What about her claims about workplace accidents?" "Fishing expedition. She's desperate, so she's throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. Don't worry about it." Wednesday morning brought another surprise. I was having coffee when someone knocked on my door. Through the peephole, I saw a woman I didn't recognize, well-dressed and nervous-looking. "Can I help you?" "Are you Kellen Brooks?" "I'm Maris Ventor, Elin's sister." I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Maris was younger than Elin, with the same dark hair but softer features. She looked like she'd been crying. "What do you want, Maris?" "I want to apologize, and I want to help." "Help with what?" "With stopping Elin before she makes things worse." Now I was interested. I stepped back and let her into the living room. "What do you mean?" Maris sat down on the couch, clutching her purse like a lifeline. I helped her set up the apartment. I co-signed the lease, helped her move furniture, created cover stories when she needed them. "Why?" "Because she told me you were abusive. She said she needed an escape plan, somewhere safe to go when things got bad." "And you believed her?" "I wanted to believe her. Elin's always been the successful one, the smart one. When she told me you were hurting her, I didn't question it." "What changed your mind?" "The money. When I found out about the bank transfers, the forged documents, I realized she'd been lying about everything." Maris opened her purse and pulled out a folder. "These are copies of everything I helped her with. Lease agreements, furniture receipts, text messages, where she admitted she was lying about the abuse." I looked through the documents, seeing the scope of Elin's deception laid out in black and white. Maris had been manipulated just like I had, but she'd been willing to face the truth when the evidence became undeniable. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because it's the right thing to do. And because I'm scared of what she might do next." "What do you mean?" "She called me yesterday, asking if I knew any private investigators. She wants to dig up dirt on you, find something she can use to discredit you." "Let her try. I've got nothing to hide." "That's not the point. She doesn't need to find real dirt. She just needs something she can twist, something she can use to create doubt." Maris was right. Elin was desperate enough to manufacture evidence if she couldn't find real ammunition. "What else did she say?" "She's planning to file for a restraining order. Claims you've been threatening her, stalking her, making her fear for her safety." "Based on what evidence?" "She doesn't need evidence for a temporary order, just her word that she feels threatened." I called Janet immediately and put her on speaker so Maris could repeat everything she'd told me. "We need to get ahead of this," Janet said. "File our own motion first. Establish the timeline of harassment and threats." "Can you testify to what your sister told you, Ms. Ventor?" "Yes. I'll do whatever it takes to stop her." Thursday morning, I was back in Janet's office, preparing for what she called the nuclear option. "We're going to file everything at once," she explained. "Criminal charges, divorce proceedings, restraining order, and civil recovery. Hit her with so much legal action that she won't have time to mount a coherent defense." "Is that legal?" "Perfectly legal. And given her threats and escalating behavior, it's probably necessary." She handed me a stack of documents to review and sign. Divorce petition, citing adultery and financial misconduct. Restraining order based on her threats and harassment. Civil suit for recovery of stolen funds. Criminal complaint for bank fraud and forgery. This will destroy her, I said, looking at the paperwork. She destroyed herself when she decided to steal from you and lie about it. We're just documenting the damage. I signed everything. Friday afternoon, the process server found Elin at Corbin's gym. According to the report, she was served with all 4 sets of legal documents while standing at the front desk, in full view of customers and staff. She called me 20 minutes later, screaming so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "You vindictive piece of trash! You want to play games? Fine, I'll destroy you." "Everything you say is being recorded, Elin. Keep that in mind." "I don't care. You think you can humiliate me? You think you can ruin my life? I'll show you what real destruction looks like." She hung up, but the damage was done. Another recorded threat to add to the growing collection. That evening, I sat in my living room, looking at the empty spaces where our shared life used to be. The photos she'd taken, the furniture she'd stolen, the trust she'd shattered. But for the first time since this started, I felt like I was winning. Elin had spent 14 months planning my destruction, but she'd made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated my capacity for fighting back. The war was just beginning, but I was no longer fighting defensively. Now I was on the attack, and I had better weapons than she did. The truth. Saturday morning brought a new level of chaos. I was having breakfast when my neighbor, Mrs. Grafton, called, her voice shaky with excitement. "Kellen, dear, you need to see what happened to that young man's car." I walked outside to find Corbin's silver BMW parked at the end of my street, or what was left of it. Someone had poured paint stripper across the hood and roof, turning the metallic finish into a bubbled, corroded mess. All 4 tires were flat, and the interior was filled with what looked like gym chalk powder. A note was tucked under the windshield wiper. "That's just the warm-up." "Did you see who did this?" I asked Mrs. Grafton. "No, but it happened sometime after midnight. I heard car doors slamming around 2 a.m. I called the police to report the vandalism, not because I cared about Corbin's car, but because I needed it documented that I wasn't involved. The responding officer took photos and a statement, noting that I'd been home all night and had witnesses to confirm it. "Any idea who might have done this?" Officer Martinez asked. "Could be anyone. The guy's been sleeping with married women, probably made some enemies." An hour later, Corbin showed up with a tow truck, his face red with anger. He spotted me in my driveway and stormed over. "You did this." "I was asleep in my own house. Officer Martinez already confirmed that with my neighbors." "You had someone else do it then." "Prove it." He stepped closer, trying to use his size to intimidate me. "This isn't over, Kellen. You want to play games? I can play games too." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." I pulled out my phone and started recording. Corbin Findler, threatening me on my own property. October 26, 2024, 10:30 a.m. He realized what I was doing and backed away. "Turn that off." "No. You want to threaten me? Let's make sure there's evidence." He looked like he wanted to take a swing at me, but the presence of the tow truck driver and several neighbors watching from their yards kept him in check. "This isn't over," he repeated, then walked back to supervise the loading of his destroyed car. I sent the recording to Janet immediately. That afternoon I was at Murphy's having a beer when Darla approached with a concerned expression. "Kellen, honey, you need to be careful. Elin was in here an hour ago asking questions about you." "What kind of questions?" "About your drinking habits, whether you ever got violent when you were intoxicated, whether anyone had ever seen you lose your temper." "What did you tell her?" "The truth. That you're one of the most even-tempered guys I know, that you rarely drink more than 2 beers, and that I've never seen you so much as raise your voice." "How did she react?" "She got angry, started implying that people were covering for you, that there was more to the story than anyone was willing to admit." Darla leaned closer, lowering her voice. "She also asked about your work schedule, what time you usually get here, whether you come in alone or with friends." "She's planning something." That's what I'm worried about. Be careful, Kellen. She's got that look in her eyes, like she's backed into a corner. Sunday evening, I was working in my garage when I heard a car door slam in my driveway. Through the window, I saw Elin walking toward the front door, carrying what looked like a suitcase. I met her on the front porch before she could use her key. What are you doing here? I live here. This is still my house, too. Not according to the restraining order you're about to be served with. That's ridiculous. I'm not the one making threats. Really? Because I have recordings of you threatening to make false accusations against me. She set down the suitcase and crossed her arms. I'm not leaving, Kellen. You can't just lock me out of my own home. Watch me. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. I need police assistance. My estranged wife is violating a restraining order and trespassing on my property. There's no restraining order, she protested. There will be by tomorrow morning. Officer Martinez, the one who took the report about your boyfriend's car, he's very interested in the recordings I have of you making threats. She stared at me for a long moment, then picked up her suitcase. This isn't over, Kellen. Yeah, I keep hearing that, but so far I'm winning. She walked back to her car, but instead of leaving, she sat in the driver's seat with the engine running. After 20 minutes, I realized she was waiting for something. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Kellen Brooks? The voice was unfamiliar, professional. Who's asking? This is Dr. Patricia Henley from Community Mental Health Services. I understand you've been having some difficulties lately. What kind of difficulties? Your wife contacted us about concerning behavior, threats, stalking, possible substance abuse issues. I looked out the window at Elin, still sitting in her car. And you believed her? We take all reports seriously, Mr. Brooks. I'd like to schedule an evaluation. An evaluation for what? To determine if you pose a risk to yourself or others. The pieces clicked into place. Elin was trying to have me committed for a psychiatric evaluation, probably hoping to establish a pattern of mental instability that would support her abuse claims. Dr. Henley, before we continue this conversation, I need to inform you that my wife is currently under investigation for bank fraud and has made documented threats to fabricate evidence against me. I'd be happy to provide you with recordings of those threats, as well as contact information for my attorney and the district attorney handling her case. There was a long pause. I see. Perhaps we should postpone any evaluation until these legal matters are resolved. I think that's wise. After I hung up, I walked outside and approached Elin's car. She rolled down the window, looking smug. That was clever, I said, but not clever enough. I don't know what you're talking about. Dr. Henley from Community Mental Health. Your attempt to have me committed for a psychiatric evaluation. Her expression shifted from smug to surprised. How did you? Because I'm not stupid, Elin. And because you're predictable. Every move you make is straight out of the How to Destroy Your Husband playbook. You can't prove I called them. I don't have to. Dr. Henley was very interested in hearing about your legal troubles. Turns out mental health professionals don't like being used as weapons in divorce proceedings. She started her car. You think you're so smart, but I'm just getting started. So am I. Monday morning brought the restraining order approval. Janet called to tell me it had been granted based on the recorded threats and Corbin's intimidation attempt. She's officially barred from contacting you directly or coming within 500 feet of your home or workplace, Janet explained. Any violation is an automatic arrest. What about the criminal charges? Grand jury meets Thursday. The prosecutor is confident they'll issue indictments on all counts. And Corbin? Still cooperating. His testimony is going to be devastating for her case. That afternoon, I was at the construction site when Tony approached me with a grin. Brooks, you're not going to believe this. Your wife showed up at the main office this morning, trying to get information about your employment record. What kind of information? Disciplinary actions, safety violations, anything that might make you look bad. HR told her to pound sand, but she made quite a scene. What did she say? That you were dangerous, that you'd been making threats, that she was afraid for her safety. Then she demanded to speak to the owner about your pattern of workplace violence. I laughed, despite myself. Workplace violence? I've never even raised my voice on a job site. That's what Mr. Peterson told her. He also told her that if she showed up again, he'd have her arrested for trespassing. Tuesday evening, I was at Murphy's when Darla waved me over to the bar. Your wife's friend was in here again, she said quietly. Corbin? No, her sister, the younger one. She was asking the same questions Elin asked last week, but she seemed different about it. Different how? Guilty, maybe? Like she didn't really want to be doing it, but felt obligated. That was interesting. Maris had seemed genuinely remorseful when she'd brought me the evidence, but family loyalty could be complicated. What did you tell her? Same thing I told Elin, the truth. But I got the feeling she was relieved to hear it. Wednesday morning, Maris called me directly. Kellen, I need to tell you something. Elin asked me to investigate you, to find anything that could be used against you in court. And? I tried, but there's nothing to find. You're exactly who you appear to be. But Elin, she's not giving up. She's hired a private investigator. To do what? To follow you, photograph you, document your activities. She's hoping to catch you doing something that could be twisted to support her claims. Let her waste her money. I've got nothing to hide. That's not the point. She doesn't need to find real evidence. She just needs something she can spin. Like what? Like you having a beer after work. She could claim it's evidence of alcoholism. Or you talking to another woman. She could claim you're already dating, that the marriage meant nothing to you. Maris was right. In the hands of a skilled manipulator, innocent activities could be made to look sinister. Why are you warning me? Because I'm tired of being part of her lies, and because I think she's losing her mind. What do you mean? She called me at 3 a.m. last night, ranting about how you'd destroyed her life, how you were going to pay for humiliating her. She sounded unhinged. That was concerning. Desperate people did desperate things, and Elin was running out of options. Maris, I need you to document everything she tells you, every conversation, every plan, every threat. I'm already doing that. But Kellen, be careful. She's talking about taking drastic action. What kind of drastic action? She wouldn't say exactly, but she mentioned something about making sure you couldn't testify against her. The implication sent a chill down my spine. Are you saying she's planning to hurt me? I don't know, but she's desperate, and desperate people do crazy things. I called Janet immediately to report the conversation. We need to take this seriously, she said. I'm going to contact the prosecutor about protective custody options. You think she'd actually try something? I think she's facing federal charges and a complete loss of reputation. People have done worse for less. That evening, I double-checked all the locks on my house and made sure my security system was armed. If Elin was planning something drastic, I wanted to be ready. But as I lay in bed that night, listening to every creak and settling sound the house made, I realized something had fundamentally changed. This wasn't just about divorce or money anymore. This was about survival. Thursday morning started with the best news I'd received since this nightmare began. Janet called at 7 a.m., her voice practically vibrating with excitement. The grand jury issued indictments on all counts: bank fraud, wire fraud, forgery, and they added a new charge: conspiracy to commit fraud. What's the conspiracy charge for? Corbin's testimony revealed that Elin planned the whole thing from the beginning. She recruited him specifically to help her steal money and establish grounds for divorce. It wasn't a love affair that got out of hand. It was a calculated scheme. I sat down hard in my kitchen chair. She planned all of this? According to Corbin, she approached him at the gym 18 months ago, told him she was in an unhappy marriage and needed help getting out. The affair was just part of the plan to justify leaving you and taking half the assets. And the money? She told Corbin she was securing their future by moving money to accounts you couldn't access. He thought it was her money from a previous marriage. The scope of Elin's deception was staggering. This wasn't a midlife crisis or a moment of weakness. It was a long-term plan to destroy my life and steal everything I'd worked for. What happens now? Arraignment is Monday. She'll be arrested this morning. 2 hours later, my phone rang. It was Maris, and she was crying. They arrested Elin at her apartment. She's asking for bail money. And? I told her no. I can't be part of this anymore, Kellen. She's been lying to everyone, manipulating everyone. I feel sick about the things I helped her do. You were manipulated too, Maris. She's good at making people believe her lies. She's furious with me. Says I betrayed her, that family should stick together no matter what. Family doesn't ask family to help them commit crimes. I know that now, but she's not giving up. Even from jail, she's making plans. What kind of plans? She called me from the holding cell, said she had one more card to play, something that would destroy you even if it destroyed her too. That afternoon, I was at the construction site when Officer Martinez showed up looking grim. Mr. Brooks, we need to talk. What's wrong? Your wife made some serious allegations during her booking process, claims you've been stalking her, threatening her, that you vandalized her boyfriend's car. I reported the vandalism myself. You took my statement. I know, but she's claiming you orchestrated it, had someone else do the actual work while you established an alibi. That's ridiculous. Probably, but we have to investigate every allegation. Can you account for your whereabouts last Friday night between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m.? I was at Murphy's until about 11, then went home. Mrs. Grafton saw me arrive. We'll need to verify that. Officer Martinez, my wife is facing federal charges for bank fraud. She's desperate, and she's lying. Maybe. But she's also claiming you have a history of violence that's been covered up. By who? Your employer, your friends, local police. She's alleging a conspiracy to protect you. I stared at him, amazed by the audacity of it. She's claiming that everyone I know is part of a conspiracy to cover up crimes I didn't commit? That's what she's saying. And you believe that? Martinez shrugged. I believe that people protect each other in small communities, but I also believe that desperate people make up stories. We'll investigate and let the facts speak for themselves. After he left, I called Janet to tell her about the new allegations. She's throwing everything at the wall now, Janet said. This is actually good news. How is this good news? Because the more outrageous her claims become, the less credible she appears. A conspiracy involving your employer, your friends, and the police. That's not believable. It's paranoid. What if they find something that can be twisted? Then we deal with it. But Kellen, you need to understand something. She's not trying to win anymore. She's trying to drag you down with her. That evening I was having dinner when someone knocked on my door. Through the peephole, I saw a man I didn't recognize, well-dressed and carrying a briefcase. Mr. Brooks, I'm Detective Ray Kowalski, State Police. Can we talk? I let him in, noting that he seemed more professional than Martinez, less influenced by small-town relationships. I understand you're having some difficulties with your wife. That's one way to put it. She's made some serious allegations. I'd like to hear your side of the story. I spent an hour walking him through everything, the affair, the theft, the evidence I'd gathered, the threats Elin had made. I showed him the recordings, the bank statements, the text messages. This is impressive documentation, he said when I finished. Most people in your situation react emotionally, destroy evidence, make things worse for themselves. I'm a construction supervisor. I solve problems methodically. Your wife claims you've been violent with her in the past. She's lying. She says there are medical records, photos of injuries. Then she'll have to produce them, won't she? He smiled slightly. She'll have to try. But medical records are hard to fake, and photos can be analyzed for authenticity. Detective, My wife spent 18 months planning to destroy my life and steal my money. She's facing federal charges and looking at prison time. Of course, she's going to make up stories about me. That's what I'm thinking too. But I have to investigate every allegation. I understand. Investigate away. You'll find that I'm exactly who I appear to be, and she's exactly what the evidence shows her to be. Friday morning brought another surprise. I was at work when my brother Mike called, his voice tight with anger. Elin contacted Mom. What? She called Mom last night, crying, claiming you've been abusing her and that everyone's covering it up. What did Mom say? At first, she was sympathetic. You know how Mom is about women in trouble. But then Elin started talking about how you've been stealing money from joint accounts and hiding assets. And? Mom asked her to explain how you could be stealing from your own accounts. Elin couldn't give a coherent answer. So, Mom didn't believe her? Mom's not stupid, Kellen. She's known you for 38 years. She knows you don't have a violent bone in your body. What did she tell Elin? That if Elin had evidence of abuse, she should take it to the police. If she had evidence of financial misconduct, she should take it to a lawyer. But she shouldn't be calling family members trying to turn them against you. I felt a wave of relief. If Elin couldn't convince my own mother to turn against me, she wasn't going to convince anyone else. How did Elin react? Got angry, started making wild accusations about the whole family being part of some conspiracy. Mom hung up on her. Good for Mom. But Kellen, be careful. Elin called back 3 more times after Mom hung up. She's obsessed. That afternoon, I was leaving the construction site when I noticed a car following me. Gray sedan, tinted windows, staying about 3 cars back but making every turn I made. The private investigator Maris had warned me about. Instead of going home, I drove to the police station and parked in the visitor lot. The gray sedan drove past without stopping, but I got a clear look at the driver. Middle-aged man, professional appearance, definitely not someone from the neighborhood. I went inside and asked to speak with Officer Martinez. I'm being followed, I told him. Gray sedan, license plate. I gave him the number I'd memorized. Your wife probably hired a private investigator. Is that legal? As long as they stay on public property and don't harass you, yes. What if they're gathering information for false accusations? Then that's a problem for the prosecutor to deal with. I drove home, taking a circuitous route to make sure I wasn't still being followed. The gray sedan was nowhere to be seen, but I had the feeling I was being watched. That evening, Maris called with an update on Elin's situation. She made bail. Some friend from work put up the money. How is she? Angry, obsessed. She's convinced that if she can just find the right evidence against you, she can turn this whole thing around. What kind of evidence? Anything. Photos of you drinking, talking to women, looking angry or upset. She thinks if she can paint you as unstable or unfaithful, it will discredit your testimony. That's not how criminal trials work. I know that, and you know that, but Elin's not thinking clearly anymore. Is she dangerous? I don't know, but she's desperate, and she's running out of options. Saturday morning, I was working in my garage when Mrs. Grafton knocked on the door. Kellen, dear, there's a man taking pictures of your house. I looked out the window and saw someone with a telephoto lens camera positioned across the street, taking photos of my property. How long has he been there? About an hour. He's been taking pictures of your truck, your garage, the front of the house. I walked outside and approached the photographer. He was the same man I'd seen in the gray sedan. Can I help you? Just doing my job, sir. Which is? Documentation services. For who? I'm not at liberty to say. Well, you're on public property, so I can't stop you. But I can document you too. I pulled out my phone and started taking photos of him, his car, his license plate. That's not necessary, sir. Sure it is. If you're going to photograph me, I'm going to photograph you. Fair is fair. He packed up his equipment and left, but I knew he'd be back. That evening, I was at Murphy's when Darla approached with a concerned expression. "Kellen, you need to know something. That private investigator was in here earlier, asking questions about you." "What kind of questions?" "How much you drink, whether you ever get aggressive, whether you've been in here with other women." "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That you're one of the most level-headed customers I have, that you rarely drink more than 2 beers, and that you've never been in here with anyone except your wife and your brother." "How did he react?" "Disappointed, like he was hoping for different answers." "Did he talk to anyone else?" "He tried, but most of the regulars know what's going on with your situation. Nobody was interested in helping him build a case against you." Sunday evening, I was reviewing the week's events when my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Kellen, it's me." Elin's voice, but different, tired, defeated. "You're violating the restraining order by calling me." "I know. I wanted to say something." "Say it to your lawyer." "Please, just listen for a minute." Against my better judgment, I stayed on the line. "I never meant for it to go this far," she said. "It started as just, I don't know, excitement, I guess. Something different. But then it became complicated, and I made bad decisions." "You made criminal decisions." "I know. And I know you hate me now." "I don't hate you, Elin. I don't feel anything for you anymore." There was a long silence. "That's worse than hate, isn't it?" "Yeah, it is. If I could take it back. But you can't, and even if you could, I wouldn't trust you to mean it. So what happens now? Now you face the consequences of your choices, and I move on with my life. Without me. Without you." She hung up, and I realized it was probably the last conversation we'd ever have as husband and wife. Monday morning would bring her arraignment, and after that, we'd only communicate through lawyers. The marriage was over. The war was almost won. But something told me Elin had one more move to make. Monday morning's arraignment was a spectacle I'll never forget. I sat in the gallery watching Elin stand before Judge Patricia Hendricks, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. The orange jumpsuit didn't help, but it was more than that. The confident, manipulative woman who'd orchestrated 18 months of deception looked broken. Her lawyer, a public defender who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else, entered a plea of not guilty on all counts. The prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Sarah Chen, requested that bail be set at $250,000 given the flight risk and the substantial evidence of financial crimes. "Your Honor," the public defender argued, "my client has strong ties to the community and no prior criminal record. She's not a flight risk." "She has strong ties to stolen money and a documented pattern of deception," Ada Chen countered. "The defendant spent 18 months systematically defrauding her husband while planning an elaborate exit strategy. This shows clear premeditation and sophisticated criminal planning." Judge Hendricks set bail at $200,000. Elin's friend from work, a woman named Tracy who I'd met at a few company parties, put up her house as collateral. I wondered if Tracy knew what she was really getting into. Outside the courthouse, I was approached by Detective Kowalski. "Mr. Brooks, we've completed our investigation into your wife's allegations." "And?" "No evidence of stalking, no evidence of threats, no evidence of any wrongdoing on your part. The medical records she claimed existed don't exist. The photos she promised to produce were never provided. So she made it all up. That's our conclusion. We're recommending additional charges for filing false police reports." As I walked to my truck, I saw Elin standing near the courthouse steps with Tracy and her public defender. She looked directly at me, and for a moment, I saw something in her eyes that made me uncomfortable. Not anger or hatred, but something colder, more calculating. She was planning something. Tuesday afternoon, I was at the construction site when Tony approached with a concerned expression. "Brooks, we got a problem. Someone broke into the equipment trailer last night. What did they take? That's the weird part. Nothing valuable. They went through the personnel files, the safety reports, anything with your name on it. Looking for what? Beats me. But they made copies of everything, left the originals but took photos with a phone or camera. I thought about the private investigator, the desperate search for anything that could be used against me. Any security footage? Camera was spray painted over. Professional job. I called Janet to report the break-in. She's getting desperate, Janet said. The trial starts in 6 weeks, and she knows the evidence against her is overwhelming. What could she possibly find in my work files that would help her? Nothing legitimate, but she might try to twist safety reports or incident documentation to make you look negligent or dangerous. Wednesday evening, I was at Murphy's when Darla waved me over with an urgent expression. Elin, you need to see this. She handed me a flyer that someone had been distributing around the neighborhood. My photo was at the top, with the headline, Dangerous Predator Alert, in bold red letters. The text below described me as a violent abuser who had terrorized my wife and was protected by a network of enablers in local law enforcement and the business community. It claimed I was dangerous to women and children and urged people to stay vigilant and report any suspicious behavior. Where did this come from? Someone left a stack of them at the grocery store, the library, the post office. They're all over town. I stared at the flyer, amazed by the audacity of it. This is libel. She could go to prison just for this. That's not all. Check the bottom. At the bottom of the flyer was a phone number with instructions to report sightings or suspicious activity. I recognized the number. It was the private investigator. She's trying to turn the whole town against me. It's not working, Darla assured me. Most people know you, know what kind of man you are. But some folks are talking. What kind of talking? Wondering if there might be some truth to it. You know how people are. They want to believe there's drama, scandal, something exciting happening. I took the flyer and drove straight to the police station. Officer Martinez looked embarrassed when I showed it to him. We've been getting calls all day, he admitted. People reporting suspicious behavior that turns out to be you going to work, going to the store, living your normal life. This is harassment. It's also libel, defamation, and possibly criminal intimidation. We're treating it as part of the ongoing case against your wife. Can you stop the distribution? We're trying, but they're being distributed anonymously. By the time we get to a location, whoever dropped them off is gone. Thursday morning brought a call from my boss, Mr. Peterson. Elin, we need to talk. I met him in his office, where he showed me a stack of the flyers along with several emails and phone calls the company had received. People are asking questions, he said. Customers, suppliers, other contractors. This is starting to affect business. I understand. I know these allegations are false. I've known you for 8 years, and you're one of the most professional, reliable people I've ever worked with. But I have to consider the impact on the company. My heart sank. Are you firing me? No, but I'm going to have to take you off customer-facing projects until this gets resolved. Internal work only, at least until the trial is over. It was a reasonable response, but it still stung. Elin's campaign of lies was affecting my livelihood now, not just my reputation. That evening, I was at home when Maris called, her voice shaking. Elin, I think Elin is planning something drastic. What kind of drastic? She asked me to meet her at that park downtown, the one with the pavilion, said she had something important to tell me. Are you going? I don't know. She sounded different. Desperate but also determined, like she'd made some kind of decision. Don't go alone. If you go at all, bring someone with you. She specifically said to come alone, that she didn't trust anyone else. Maris, your sister is facing federal charges and has been distributing libelous flyers around town. She's not thinking rationally. I know, but she's still my sister. Your sister is a criminal who's been manipulating you for months. Don't let family loyalty blind you to the danger. Friday afternoon, I was leaving the construction site when I noticed the gray sedan following me again. Instead of going home, I drove to the downtown area, taking a route that would pass by Riverside Park. That's when I saw them. Elin and Maris were standing near the pavilion, but they weren't alone. Corbin was there too, along with two men I didn't recognize. One of them was the private investigator. The other looked like muscle, big, tough, the kind of guy you'd hire if you needed something physical done. I parked where I could watch without being seen and called 911. "This is Kellen Brooks. I'm at Riverside Park and I think my estranged wife is planning something illegal. She's here with several men, including one who looks like hired muscle." "Are you in immediate danger, sir?" "I don't think so, but my sister-in-law is with them, and she might be. We're sending a unit." I stayed on the line, describing what I could see. Elin was talking animatedly, gesturing toward the street where my truck was parked. She'd spotted me. The group started moving in my direction, but before they could reach me, 2 police cars arrived. The officers got out and approached the group, and I saw Elin's expression change from determination to panic. I drove closer so I could hear what was happening. "Just a family meeting," Elin was saying. "We have every right to be here." "Ma'am, you're in violation of a restraining order," one of the officers said. "Mr. Brooks is within 500 feet of your location." "He followed us here." "Actually, ma'am, he called us. Said he was concerned about his sister-in-law's safety." Maris looked relieved to see the police. Whatever Elin had been planning, it wasn't something Maris was comfortable with. "I want to press charges," Elin announced suddenly. "That man has been stalking me, harassing me, trying to intimidate me." "Ma'am, you're the one who's violated the restraining order. You're under arrest." As they handcuffed Elin, she looked directly at me with pure hatred in her eyes. "This isn't over, Kellen," she shouted. "I'll destroy you if it's the last thing I do." "Ma'am, you need to stop talking," her public defender said, appearing from nowhere. "Anything you say can be used against you." But Elin was past caring about legal consequences. "You think you've won? You think you can humiliate me and get away with it? I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of monster you really are." The officers put her in the back of the patrol car, but she kept shouting through the window. "I know things about you, things that will ruin your life." As the police car drove away, I approached Maris, who was crying. "Are you okay?" "She wanted me to lie for her," Maris said. "To say I'd seen you threaten her, that I'd witnessed you being violent. And I told her I wouldn't do it. That's when she got angry and called those other men." "What were they supposed to do?" "I don't know exactly, but the big guy kept talking about teaching you a lesson and making sure you couldn't testify." The implications were clear. Elin had been planning to have me beaten up, possibly seriously injured, to prevent me from testifying at her trial. "Maris, you need to tell the police everything you just told me." "I will, but Kellen, be careful. She's not giving up. Even from jail, she'll keep trying to hurt you." Saturday morning, Janet called with an update. She's been charged with violating the restraining order, conspiracy to commit assault, and witness intimidation. The prosecutor is also adding charges related to the libelous flyers. "What about bail?" "Revoked. She's staying in jail until trial." "And the men she was with?" "The private investigator is cooperating, providing information about who hired him and what he was asked to do. The other man, the muscle, has a record of assault and battery. He's been arrested on conspiracy charges." "What about Corbin?" "Still cooperating with prosecution. Apparently, Elin called him and threatened to implicate him in the assault plan if he didn't help her." Sunday evening, I sat in my living room, finally feeling like the nightmare might be coming to an end. Elin was in jail, her co-conspirators were arrested or cooperating, and the evidence against her was overwhelming. My phone rang. It was Detective Kowalski. "Mr. Brooks, we found something interesting when we searched your wife's apartment." "What?" "A detailed plan to destroy your reputation and possibly have you removed permanently." "Removed?" "Notes about hiring someone to make it look like an accident. Construction sites are dangerous places, lots of ways for someone to get hurt." The reality of how close I'd come to serious harm hit me like a physical blow. She was planning to have me murdered? The notes are ambiguous enough that we can't charge her with conspiracy to commit murder, but they show clear intent to cause you serious harm. What happens now? Now she goes to trial and faces the consequences of her choices, and you get to rebuild your life. Monday morning, I returned to work to find that the flyers had been removed from around town and that most people had heard about Elin's arrest. The cloud of suspicion that had been hanging over me was finally lifting. Mr. Peterson called me into his office. "Kellen, I owe you an apology. I should have known better than to believe those accusations, even temporarily. You were protecting your business. I understand. You're back on full duties, effective immediately, and I'm giving you a raise. What you've been through, the way you've handled it, that takes character." 6 weeks later, I sat in the courtroom watching as the jury delivered their verdict. Guilty on all counts. Elin was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison and ordered to pay full restitution plus penalties. As they led her away in shackles, she looked at me one last time, but the hatred was gone now, replaced by something that might have been regret, or maybe just the recognition that she'd finally lost. Outside the courthouse, Janet shook my hand. "It's over, Kellen. You won." "Did I? My marriage is in ruins. My reputation was nearly destroyed, and I barely made it out in one piece. That doesn't feel much like a win." "You survived. You fought back. You proved that the truth matters, even when it's difficult. What happens now? Now you rebuild. New life, fresh start, lessons learned." I drove home through the town that had almost turned against me, past the places where Elin had distributed her lies, past the park where she'd planned my destruction. But I wasn't thinking about the past anymore. I was thinking about the future. The divorce was final. The criminal case was closed. The money was recovered. Elin had spent 18 months planning my destruction, but in the end, she'd only destroyed herself. I parked in my driveway and looked at the house that was finally, completely mine. Tomorrow I'd start making it into something new, something that belonged to the man I was now, not the man I'd been when I believed in forever. My phone buzzed with a text from Mike. "Drinks at Murphy's to celebrate?" I smiled and typed back, "On my way." The nightmare was over. My life was beginning again. And this time, I'd be more careful about who I trusted with my heart. But I wouldn't let Elin's betrayal make me bitter or closed off. She'd taken enough from me already. She wouldn't take my capacity for hope. As I walked into Murphy's, Darla looked up from behind the bar and smiled. "There's the man of the hour. First drinks on the house." "Thanks, Darla, but I think I'll stick to just one tonight." "Smart man. You've got a clear head now. Keep it that way." I raised my glass in a silent toast to survival, to truth, to the possibility of better days ahead. Elin had tried to destroy me, but she'd failed. I was still standing, still fighting, still believing that good people could win if they refused to give up. The safety briefing